Anyway, I think we have Josh
They were
Garcia
they
on
were
the
both.
line. How you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing today?
Good.
Josh, what's up, man?
We had a great time watching the fight with you, and just a lot of unexpected. Did you expect? Let me introduce him. Josh Garcia from what's the newspaper?
The Beacon, the New York Beacon.
The New York Beacon is on the phone.
Yeah.
Covers boxing and other sports or just boxing.
Yes, I also do baseball and some basketball as well, and I find my way to the NFL as well.
Oh, there you go. Okay, but we're going to talk. We're going to talk about the fight, or actually later on we can talk about baseball too. I was really.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Before we got to tell everybody that he's the only guy that I know.
There you go.
Who picked
On
Tyson
Earth.
Fury to win this fight.
There you go.
Hey, Samari, I was listening to our interview back in November, right after the Brazil fight, and I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I had been talking about Fury was going to take it back then,
Nice.
just because of some of the things that he showed Saturday night. He was too quick. His upper body, there was too much movement. It's really easy to hit a non-moving target, but when that target is moving all over the ring, that's when the power shots from Deontay went from 58 in the first fight down to 38 total between jabs and power shots. 38 total shots in 7 rounds. That's not great.
How should have Wilder approached the fight? Because from what I saw, from the minute that fight started, I saw fear in his eyes, and he was backpedaling from the first minute. I didn't see any aggression. I didn't see him trying to hit him in the elbows, get his arms out of the way, do any body shots, try to avoid the jabs, try to tire Fury out by, running around the ring in a way that would tire him out, or the rope-a-dope Ali thing. None of that, and he was basically a target.
Yeah, like coming into the fight, we talked about how Tyson switched everything up with his training and his approach. Well, Fury was Wilder was undefeated, but fighting somebody like Fury, as we talked about, compared to the fighters that he's faced against in his career, he needed to come with a different game plan. He could not do the same old thing that he did against a Luis Ortiz against a Tyson Fury who was coming in
the guy's
at worst
monstrous, and he's
the
coming
number
at
one
you.
contender in the division. So going into his camp, his trainer should have been telling him, we need to work on speed with your hand, work on your legs. And, one thing for Deontay is he likes to use his reach a lot. And if you notice, Tyson was only on the inside, he was on top of his body. He put all his weight on top of his body, which made those legs even weaker. It just was a bad night for Wilder.
No, I agree, and I agree also that he should have been coached a little differently. And also, I am not a boxer. When you see something is not working in the ring, wouldn't your manager in one of the rounds say, "Listen, try this, try that," because whatever you're doing, you're getting killed. And his maybe his only advice was stay the way out of his hands, stay away from his hands. But he was like a sitting duck. There was no change whatsoever in his approach to Fury.
At the end of the day, your fighter is the guy in the ring, and they have some of the hardest heads in the entire athletic realm. When you talk to a heavyweight boxer, especially one that's undefeated, he thinks he knows better than you.
There you go.
You're in the corner. He's in the middle of the ring. He thinks he knows better than you. Right. And one of the things that really got Deontay in trouble was a lot of his team is yes men. They tell him, you're undefeated. You're the baddest man on the planet. You're this. You're that. But they don't point out what everybody in the boxing world sees, which is you don't have the greatest form. You don't stand well. You don't hold your defense well. Your hand position is terrible. At some points, Deontay, you want to say, wow, this guy is so full of talent. You want to just put him in a room and say, work on this, work on that, work on this. But he says, but I'm undefeated. Nobody's ever beat me before. I don't understand why you're coming at me with a problem that doesn't exist.
Hey, listen.
Well, now he believes what everybody knew, which is he has a problem in his form.
The Titanic didn't go down until it did.
Exactly.
You know, there was a moment, and I think this was probably the moment that changed the tenor of the match, and that's when Deontay had his hands down, or he had his hands at his waist, sort of waiting for the next moment, and Fury just took advantage of it and hit him in the head. It's like he was sleepwalking for a split second, and that undid him, I think, for the fight.
Yeah, well,
remember that moment?
If you watch his last fight against Otto Wallen, Fury, that is, you can see that he can fight every type of fight. He can fight a quick fight. He can fight a 12-round fight. He can fight a fight where he's bleeding profusely from his head or his face. Tyson has basically shown he can get through all of those type of obstacles. And Deontay, if he wants to get to the next level and come back and go where he wants to go and be who he wants to be, he needs to learn how to do that, much like Tyson had to go through the wars that he went with an Otto Wallen.
How do you think that ear injury affected him throughout the fight? I think that was one of the big causes for his undoing, because it undid his equilibrium.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw it last June. Nobody gave Andy Ruiz a chance against Joshua, and I watched an interview yesterday, and Andy said, I had flashbacks watching that Fury and Wilder.
Really?
He said, because that was the same punch, basically, that I hit Anthony Joshua with that he never recovered from. So why would you expect a Wilder, who's on the same level as a Joshua, to recover from it? The same type of vicious hit to the back of the head that just throws your whole equilibrium off. You're like Mike Tyson says, you're in the ring, your mind is fine, but your body is not working. Your legs don't work, your waist doesn't work. You go to step and your mind goes to step, but your legs don't.
There you go.
Josh, okay, you were talking about Wilder's corner. Now let's go back to that for a minute, because we all know that Mark Breland, one of Wilder's trainers, threw in the towel on the seventh inning, threw it in, and Wilder, after the fight, said that he did not want that to happen, and he said he wanted to die. He wanted to die on his shield or whatever he said.
He was gonna die.
Yeah.
He was gonna die.
Yeah. And Breland has since been fired this week by Wilder, and Breland has been with Wilder for many years. Now, you talked about how it was clear before the fight that Wilder had deficiencies that he needed to work on, but because he had not lost a fight ever, it was something that was hard to tell him. So do you think that Breland was trying to tell Wilder certain things that he needed to work on, or do you think that Breland did not? And now going forward, we see that Wilder had 30 days to opt in to a third fight with Fury. I'm not sure if that's been done officially, but I've heard Wilder say this week he was going to do it. And do you think that Breland should have been fired? And what do you think needs to be Wilder's game plan as he approaches a third fight with Fury?
Well, the classic move of any fighter who loses their first fight or a marquee fight
Scapegoat,
is
right?
to blame the trainer and blame the team.
It's obviously the trainer's fault.
Like I said, these guys have never lost before in Wilder's case. So you're really standing there wondering what the hell went wrong. You know, you don't like that Mark Breland, just like Manny Robles after the Anthony Joshua Ruiz fight, finds himself with no job. And obviously both of them are quality, top echelon trainers. So it's very terrible that Deontay Wilder would blame Mark Breland, who was simply looking out for his guy who, like I said, I watched the fight with both of you. I kept telling you during the 6th and 7th round, why continue if there's no possibility of winning this fight? You hit him, Wilder hit him twice last fight and didn't get him out of the ring. So why would you continue a fight where you're getting pummeled and possibly ruin the rest of your career? There's no doubt that Wilder could face in the future Fury again, Anthony Joshua, a Ruiz, a Joseph Parker, anybody who you can name in the heavyweight division. There's no way you can discount Wilder and his future based off of one fight. So I think it was great that Breland stood in. You don't want to end up, God forbid, a Wilder end up like a Patrick Day or a Didashev, who both passed away last year after their fight. Yeah. Can you imagine? You talked about what a great night for boxing. Everybody was tuned in. Everybody's looking forward to the heavyweight division. Can you imagine if, God forbid, Wilder passed away? That would have wiped away everything for boxing and ruined it.
Yeah. Now, Josh, in terms of your strategy and how Wilder got whipped, and I guess there's no way of knowing this, if Breland tried to tell Wilder going in, look, you need to work on these things. Maybe he did and Wilder was not trying to hear it, or Breland never mentioned this to Wilder, and Wilder went into a fight where he was not prepared. So what do you think it was, and do you think that Breland should have been fired?
Like I've said before, he's the bronze bomber for a reason. He didn't win gold or silver at the Olympics for the exact same reason why he lost to Tyson Fury. He needs to get in the ring, in the gym, with a trainer of his choice, and learn how to do the basics in boxing.
Right. So So do you think that Breland was that guy, or do you think that it was fair for Wilder to move on and get somebody else to do that?
Honestly, as much as I respect Mark Breland, it obviously wasn't him because these holes were apparent after the Luis Ortiz fight. So obviously his team didn't sit down and tell him, listen, we need to work on this, this, and this, or it's going to go bad.
Okay. I hear you. So do you know if it's official yet? If this opt-in clause for a third fight has been opted into by Wilder or not? Do we know that?
The third fight will happen. It's just a matter of when. So right now, the CEO of Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, he's obviously the handler for Anthony Joshua, and he wants Anthony Joshua to face Tyson Fury, because not only will it be a huge fight for boxing, but it's a huge fight for the UK and a moneymaker which could unify the division. So that fight may not happen immediately. There may be, in boxing, there's always step-aside money, meaning they'll give a check to the person who wants the rematch to wait 6 months so that they can have, basically right now, that Anthony Joshua and Fury can fight in the UK, and then the winner of that would face Wilder.
Okay, that would be okay. Interesting.
What did I want to say? How do you let's go back and talk about the accoutrements of this fight. So you have Fury comes out and he's dressed as the king. It looks like something out of a Burger King commercial, and Wilder comes out in this really incredible uniform that I think actually really hurt him before he started the fight, because you could see when he took off his helmet, he was breathing hard. I think he had an issue breathing. So before he even started the fight, he was behind the 8 ball. So in an odd way, maybe I'm not a boxing purist, and so when I see stuff like that, sometimes boxing takes on a carnival-like atmosphere anyway. So to see those guys, dressed that way doesn't really throw me. But I think in terms of Wilder's uniform, it really hurt him because he couldn't breathe. And then at the end of, just to mix things up a little bit, at the end of the fight, Fury decides to sing a song. I have never seen that in pro boxing. That was off the charts.
That's his personality. Tyson has a personality to match what he does in the ring, and he's not shy. If you listen to some of the quotes about how he prepared for this rematch, there were some unconventional strategies and approaches If you know what I mean as far as self gratification, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
He says he prepared 20, 25 times a day before this fight. Who knows if it's true? Who knows if it's not? But he says those type of things. And after, I believe was it the Wallen fight? He sang an Aerosmith song to his wife in the ring. So he's an animated character, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people wanted to see Fury win, because Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder have been going back and forth for years. And there's a reason why they've never met in the ring. And a lot of people think it's because of Deontay Wilder's, let's say, hesitance to go to the UK. He does not really want to fight in the UK.
Yeah.
So the point of that being, Eddie Hearn says if Wilder would have beat Fury, we will never have a unified champion, because if the WBC belt is being held hostage, essentially, you'll never have a unified division. So now that you have two fighters with all the belts willing to fight each other, you can finally have a unification for the first time since Lennox Lewis almost 20 years ago.
Do you see anybody besting Fury in the next maybe 3-4 years?
No, unless somebody comes out of the depths, maybe like an Alexander Usyk, who recently moved up from light heavyweight and cruiserweight. I maybe could see him, but again, no. When you're 6'9", with those type of skills, they last. He doesn't rely on power. He relies on skill. And like I said, he can beat you in 5 rounds. He can beat you in 8 rounds. Right. He can beat you in 12 rounds. He knows how to win each fight against each opponent.
So to be redundant, this new coach that Fury got was really a big help. It turned them around.
Yeah, like I said, I watched this Andy Ruiz interview yesterday on PBC, and one of the things he talked about was how much it helped Fury with a new trainer. And he currently is looking at Teddy Atlas, who trained Mike Tyson, who's arguably one of the most famous and top level trainers in the heavyweight division of all time, to put back that motivation and that discipline into Andy. And you see with Tyson, when you switch trainers, it can just invigorate you. It's like a whole new chapter of your career. And as good as Fury looked against Wallen and Klitschko and Schwartz, he looked even better against Deontay. Nobody would have ever expected him to look that flawless against that type of opponent.
Josh, you talk about how it's so hard to beat Fury. One reason because he's 6'9", but it's interesting because for a long time, up until now, I guess, people would say that a boxer that tall, that big, is a weakness, and that's something that is not favorable to a fighter who is looking to be good, and that being that tall, that big was a deficiency. But now but to the average person, it would seem like being that big and tall is a short shot, no doubt advantage, but some boxing aficionados did not say that. So just how about that? And just how about that?
Well, I'll just say in boxing, it's a little different than a lot of the other sports. A lot of times in boxing, you get guys that defy the odds. They surprise the hell out of you, essentially. And not so much when it comes to height, but I'll talk about age. And let's look at Bernard Hopkins, who fought until he was 50, was fighting people like Sergey Kovalev in his last fight at 48, 49 years old. And you talk about the welterweight division right now at 147. You're talking about Manny Pacquiao, a man who's 42 years old, a man who's a senator of his country. He should be retired. Yet you're talking about Manny Pacquiao facing a Terrence Crawford, a Mikey Garcia, a Danny Garcia, these top of the division type guys who are in their prime. So when you ask me about height, I think it's crazy how height has changed in boxing. But what really trips me out in boxing is how somebody's prime has moved from the mid-20s now to 30, 31, 32 years old is now your prime in boxing.
You know, it's interesting because, well, also, I mean, our life, we're living longer anyway. We're living to 80 and 90. I mean, how many times do you see the obits for people who are 90 years old? And so that pushes the bottom end of it up. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I want to see this fight, PBC and Top Rank. Obviously, putting these people who don't like to work with each other in the same room in Las Vegas over the weekend for Fury and Wilder. Guess what? They started talking. They started negotiating. All these "it's never going to happen" fights. Guess what? They're talking about them. Maybe we see Terrence Crawford against Manny Pacquiao this summer. And you're talking about, in my personal opinion, it's a better fight than Fury Wilder.
Yeah, those little guys really like to fight. Also, I think Pacquiao's going to be fighting until he's 60 years old.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. As long as politics don't take him out of the game,
Yeah,
he really
it's a whole lot. Yeah, well,
being in those politics, being in Congress.
Personally, he's got some issues that I don't want to get into now, but he's got some homophobic issues too, so I don't want to get into that.
Hey, we spoke about Tim Tebow earlier. Tim Tebow will be playing for Manny's team, the Philippines.
There you go.
You never know. Maybe Manny can get out there and do a relieving job or something. Maybe close it out for him.
Yep. But you know what? But I saw something yesterday on ESPN, and it was a listing of a ranking of the top 10 pound for pound boxers right now in the world, and Fury was number 7, Pacquiao was number 10. Pacquiao, I believe, is in his 40s now, or pretty close to us. He was number 10, so he's still there, hanging in. And we hear rumors that Floyd Mayweather may decide to get back into the ring. Do you think that there's any chance that we will see a number 2 Mayweather versus Pacquiao? We saw the first
That'd be
fight.
A great fight.
Yeah.
It would be a great fight. I personally don't know. I haven't seen him in a year or two in the gym, but I don't know what kind of shape Floyd is in, but Manny's in top shape. If you watch Manny's last fight against Keith Thurman, anybody that watched that fight said Keith Thurman, it's going to be tough for Manny. Keith Thurman, he's young, he's fast, he hits hard, he had a layoff, so he's fresh, and Manny dominated him. Manny took him to school. So the age does not matter when it comes to at least Manny Pacquiao, because he's making these 25, 28-year-olds look slow.
Would you be excited about seeing Manny and Floyd fight again?
Not as excited as to see Terrence Crawford and Manny, because I want to see Terrence Crawford fight somebody. Stop avoiding Terrence Crawford. He's the most avoided man on the planet. I want to see him fight somebody.
I got you.
Yeah, so, as much as I love Floyd and Manny, I can watch that on YouTube. I want to go watch Terrence Crawford against Manny and test Crawford to his limit.
Speaking of limits, I think we've reached the limit right here. I want to thank you, Josh Garcia, for appearing on the show, talking about boxing, Samori Benjamin. My name is Jerry Luke. Please come on the show anytime you want. It was a delight seeing the fight with you.
Always. Enjoy your weekend, and if you guys get a chance, check out that Mikey Garcia, Jesse Vargas fight tomorrow from the Star in Dallas.
We'll give that a shot.
Yes, sir.
Josh, thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Have a good one.
Take care.